Get ready with me for church this morning while I talk about friendships and spiritual discernment. So basically last night I was with a very good friend of mine who we had dinner together, and we had gotten into the topic of discussion of our personalities and how we have let people treat us in the past. So we were talking about this stuff very deeply, and just really I guess she had a little bit of a cry moment, and I was there to comfort her and tell her that she shouldn't have to think this way, and that we all deserve to be loved in the right way by the right person. So then after that conversation, it had me thinking. I started thinking back to my past as well about I too have let people treat me the same way that people have treated her. I've let people walk all over me. I've let people use me. I've walked into rooms where I was invited to that place, but I knew that as soon as I walked in, I wasn't welcomed, and I felt it straight away. I've had friends who I've gone into toxic cycles with, where I repeat the same patterns with different friends. It's just different person but same patterns. And then as well, I've had friends who have been nice to my face, but then when they're around someone who I know doesn't really like me or talks behind my back, they just come and completely ignore me right in front of them. So, I've had a lot of these experiences, and I think, God let me go through that to teach me the hard way about discerning when it comes to people and who you choose to be your friends and who you choose to have around you, I've even had friends who I could sense that they had the spirit of envy or the spirit of jealousy in them, and I still chose to be friends with them, but all those friendships ended the same way. They all ended the same way, and I think that just God let me go through all that so that he could teach me. He could teach me to, really discern, don't just believe what people tell you, at face value. Really think about what they say, and then the way they act, what they do, how they treat you, how they treat others, what they do. Have that discernment. It's when you're choosing, the people that you can confide in and trust in, and there are a few verses in the Bible about this, but I just can't think of them right now off the top of my head as I'm doing this. So, but I think that, I'm sure that there are other people out there that relate, that can relate to me in a very similar way, that have gone through this in their life. And I think that it's hard, but we just need to trust in, I think that the biggest lesson that I've learned is to have, it's okay, you don't need to have a million friends around you, to be honest with you, it's better to just have one or two really good friends than to have a lot of friends, because majority of the time, half of them are probably talking behind your back anyway. But, as Christians, we still choose to love them, we still choose to forgive these people. But we just know that we need to set boundaries, you know, and after going through all those, you know, tough lessons with those other people, now the friendships that I have are great because I learned to put boundaries, you know, I learned to put boundaries in place. And as soon as I feel like, you know, like I get a bad sense about someone, you know, I've learned to trust my discernment, that little voice in my head that's telling me, it's not a good idea to be around this person. Or maybe, you know, I've also been put in situations where I've had to learn the hard way, where I had that little voice in my head of God telling me, leave this situation right now, this could end really badly. But I chose to stay because I was so desperate to have friends. I was so desperate for love and for attention, that eventually God had to isolate me and then put me in a place where, you know, it no longer mattered to me if others like me or agree with me or love me. As long as I have God first in my life, then everything else will fall into place. And now the friendships that I do have, you know, I have really great, strong friendships now that I don't have to work for their love, or I don't have to work for their approval, because God has gone and removed all the people in my life that no longer, that, you know, he knew, like, because he can hear all the conversations that you can't. He removes people from your life to protect you. And, you know, I think, you know, coming to that I guess, life lesson, it took me a lot of years, and it took me a lot of heartbreak, a lot of tears, a lot of sitting by myself. I even, at one point, I started to have suicidal thoughts at one point, but thank the Lord, he pulled me out of it. He pulled me out of that depression that I was going through. And now, you know, it just doesn't matter to me anymore, you know. I still do, like, I'm human, you know. Sometimes these thoughts do creep in, you know, that, you know, one person talks to me wrong, and then I think, oh, that person must hate me. But really, maybe they were just having a bad day, or, you know, they were just, you know, you never know. So I've learned to really just put my feelings aside and just trust in God, that whoever is for me will be with me and support me, and whoever is not, then it's better that they're not in my life. So yeah, that's all I just kind of felt like I wanted to say today. But yeah, I hope that you all have a blessed Sunday, and I hope that maybe you're someone who's listening who's gone through this as well, and I hope that this kind of helps you out and makes you think about these things in a way that God has taught me. So yeah, just hope you all have a beautiful Sunday, and peace out.